My name is Gan-Ochir Zunduisuren. I'm a managing director of the Asian Battery Metals. Our company is focused on exploration and development of the critical minerals in Mongolia, particularly copper, gold, copper nickel project in Mongolia.
Good to meet you, sir. Thank you very much for joining us. Now, we've not met or spoken before, so it might be worth introducing yourself to all the listeners, readers, and viewers. So where have you come from? What have you done before?
Yeah, great. I've been in mining industry in more than 20 years now. I'm educated in Canada and in Mongolia in mining engineering. Then I have masters in finance. But I mostly I've spent my career in Mongolia working in different capacities, working for exploration companies, and then of course gold mining operations in Mongolia, and then coal exploration, including a company called Aspire Mining, which is listed on Australian Stock Exchange. And also I spent 2 years on a board of a company called Oyu Tolgoi. Oyu Tolgoi is the largest copper mining operation in Mongolia, currently run by Rio Tinto, and I came off the board of that company in 2022 to full-time lead the company that I founded a few years back. So Asian Battery Metals, it is founded by myself and investors who are like-minded that saw that there is a big potential in Mongolia to establish a company focused on critical minerals and battery metals at the doorstep of China.
Right. Well, okay. Appreciate that. And who are some of the other directors that you're working with?
On our board, we have David Paul. David Paul has been he's been the managing director of the Aspire Mining for 10 years, operated in Mongolia. Neil Young, who was the CEO of the Elixir Energy, also listed on Australian Stock Exchange. He's probably one of the pioneers establishing CBM exploration in Mongolia. And then we have Kristen Livermore. She was in the parliament in Australia, then also led the Australian-Mongolian bilateral government program in Mongolia for 2 years. So we have quite, strong, experienced people to promote Mongolia as an investment destination.
Let's talk about Mongolia. I think Mongolia, if I had having this conversation 3-4 years ago, I'm not sure too many people would know much about Mongolia, but we've have Erdene, Orano, Rio Tinto, Aspire, as you say, Step Gold, have been on the platform talking about doing business there. What can you tell us, and what do we need to know as investors about doing business in Mongolia?
As a jurisdiction for mining investment, Mongolia really emerged on the global market probably in late 2000s and early 2010s, right? But since then, over the last 15 years, there's a lot of change happened. One of the key things is infrastructure is vastly improved over the last 15 years. And also the legal framework, I would say, matured a lot. So what I mean by maturing is mining itself is interdisciplinary, right? So it's not only mining process happens. There's also perspectives, or also there are considerations for environmental laws, water usage laws, how to work with other stakeholders and communities, right? So over the last 15 years, that whole process surrounding mining in Mongolia has matured. So I think that's the advantage of Mongolia is, and that's actually been witnessed by, if you look at the other development of the mid and large size mining operations in Mongolia. If you look at the last 15 years, there's almost from 20 some to 30 new mines opened up. So it's almost 2 new mines every year. So that actually shows that that maturity of the legal framework in Mongolia, I think.
Yeah, yeah, it does. And I think what we've seen is also the willingness of investors to put the money behind some of the public companies operating in country. Can we just try and understand a little bit more? Therefore, what have you set out to do? Because when I look at the presentation and the marketing material, you've got a lot of optionality. What's the actual focus?
The focus for now is really a critical mineral, and particularly copper, because geologically Mongolia always been known for rich endowment of the copper, right, including Oyo Tolgoi copper mine, which is probably single largest copper operation that built as a new mine in last 15 years globally. And then you have AZ9, which is also known operator, and other projects. So I think there's definitely an untapped potential there. And where we are working, which is southwest part of Mongolia, is particularly interesting, but because from geological perspective, that's actually the extension of the what's called a Central Asian orogenic belt. So that actually hosts a series of copper mines in Kazakhstan, in northwest China, and also some parts of Russia. So same geological structure coming into Mongolia, and that's where we are operating and exploring to establish a copper company there.
Okay, but you've got, again, look at the material. You've got Oval, you've got Mahandul, you've got Copper Ridge. Are they all part of the same magmatic system, or are they separate intrusions? I mean, and how do you prioritize that?
Yeah, there's currently particularly we have two different mineralization happening in the southwest part of Mongolia. It's three tenements. Some of the prospects that you have mentioned, like the Copper Ridge and Oval, which is our flagship copper nickel project, located in the same tenement. The Mahandul is actually only 8 kilometers from the Oval. So we're looking at it as more of an area consolidation, where we're looking at potentially a multiple prospects that could use down the road same infrastructure for development. So we are currently looking at it magmatic, mafic intrusion-related copper nickel project as Oval, which is different. Then we have number of prospects surrounding it as showing a potential for regional cluster there. And then we also have a Mahandul, which is a orogenic massive sulfide system, which hosts copper gold mineralization and massive sulfide mineralization. So it is, a bit unique to different sets of mineralization, but occurring in various close spaced areas. So there's definitely potential for these projects to use same infrastructure. So there's a synergy for economic benefit.
Okay, so let's look at what you've got today. What can you tell us about it? And if we just start with Oval, how did you pick it up, and what did you know when you acquired it?
Yeah, Oval project was really this project we developed from the concept stage, right? So we have looked at the project. We're always looking for this type of project in the southwest part of Mongolia based on our analysis of the regional geology. In 2023, we participated with this project to a program called BHP-Xplor. So BHP-Xplor is a global early stage exploration accelerator program organized by BHP. And they selected 7 companies out of 250 companies in 2023, and we were one of the 7, only one in Asia at that time. And they provided $500,000 US, and we used that fund to actually initially discover the project and prove the concept of magmatic mafic intrusion-related copper nickel sulfide system in there. And we listed on Australian Stock Exchange in subsequent year. And then we actually found higher grade mineralization within those intrusion systems. So that's where we are. We have spent quite amount of money on exploration on this project. We have drilled, we have done extensive exploration using geophysics. So we have Oval, which is primary target. And then we have emerging what we call it, regional prospects, MS1, and then Baingse, newly picked up area. So these are larger, more regional exploration that we will be advancing and developing into next year.
Right, and we say you've done extensive exploration. In terms of drilling, either meters spent or dollars spent on this? Where are you?
Well, overall in our exploration projects, right? So we, as a company, we have spent roughly close to $7-8 million Australian on this overall all the projects, but probably more close to $5-6 million on overall project and surrounding areas. So we have drilled 3 phases of drilling program. We have completed ground EM program, and in our exploration we use downhole EM, which is electromagnetic survey that that measures conductivity in the ground. So that's how we operate. We have very strong. Yeah. Okay.
Okay. So, and what have you done? Any sort of other type of work? Like at this stage, is it possibly too early for any metallurgical understanding? But what can you tell us about the mineralogical characteristics?
Yeah. We are in the process of completing our first metallurgical test. Initial results were announced to the market I think this month or last month. And at this stage, we have sent three different ores, right? So we have disseminated ore, then we have net textured, which is slightly higher than disseminated, and then we have master sulfide ore. So we sent 3 samples. We have received 2 of them back. So disseminated lower grade 2, so disseminated and the net textured ones. The results show that we are recovering. We have a potential to recover from 89 to 95% of the copper, so which is a very good recovery, with producing copper in concentrate of 18.5 to 24%. So that's a very good grade for marketable grade concentrate for copper. And then of course we have at this stage lower recovery on the nickel side, and we are still working with the optimization. So we will probably have final processing done on the master sulfides within this year.
Okay, and is it fairly clean? There's no kind of deleterious elements in there?
That process is still going based on the initial chemical looks all right. It's still an ongoing process. That's something we will measure in the final concentrate mix.
Okay, and you'll be looking at obviously any other kind of byproducts that may come into the mix.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. But
okay.
Potentially,
okay.
PGE, etc. Right. So.
Okay, you so described it's starting to understand the kind of geological model. Can you tell us about what sort of structures or intrusions are appearing to kind of control the kind of sulfide emplacement? Mm-hmm. I mean, can you tell me more about that? Yeah,
sure. I mean, it's a very textured, different mafic to ultra mafic rocks, right? So what we encounter is mineralization. Basically, on the top part we have disseminated mineralization, and in the middle we have a slightly enriched net textured, and then somewhat in the bottom part we have master sulfide. But the host rock itself is varies from gabbro to olivine rich amphibole cumulates. So it's in essence it's pretty close to peditite. So it's a right rock. So one of the very interesting thing is that rock is actually encountered in 6 kilometers to the south in different prospects that we actually have with what we call MS1, which is buried geophysical anomaly that we drilled this year, and we actually intercepted similar rock with visual sulfide mineralization, showing that this is a potentially a sulfide hosting mafic intrusion system at the MS1, and that geophysical signature of that area is potentially larger than oval. So we are quite interested to follow it up, and we added new ground south from it, which is actually covers large part of the aeromagnetic magnetic anomaly there, which we think is probably the source or larger intrusion system that are somewhat related with the oval. So
can you tell us a bit more about the drilling? So how deep is this drilling? I guess I'm trying to understand whether this is, if you've got a handle on the kind of if you're seeing these kind of consistent orientations, or how many multiple overprinting events have there been and how you kind of improve your understanding of what you're doing.
Yeah. So at Oval, what we're really looking for is it is potentially a kind of like dike system, right? It is a bladed dike kind of system where came into operating space and enriched in that area. Whether it's enriched within there or down depth is something probably need to be studied further. But in these systems, it's a more like a channeled system, which is doesn't have much direction. It just goes through the weakened ground areas where the flow comes from a conduit and feeding up above. So what we are trying to establish is actually where the conduit feeder is, and we have to follow that feeder. And that feeder potentially will deliver us to the next potential chamber or enlarged area with further mineralization, where sulfide-bearing mafic intrusion actually came into the more open space and settled, and where there is a more enriched zones established. So that's where we're working. We have good lead to that. So from Oval, which is mineralization starts from the surface and gently dip into the southeast direction, where we drill probably a mineralization up to 200, 220 meters. But we have, this year we have intersected area where we encountered very textured sulfide mineralization in drill hole OVD 32, which at 290 meter level. So that's like, substantially deeper than where we encountered mineralization previously. So we think that's potentially one of the part of the feeder system that came to the Oval. So yeah, that's the direction we're going. And next year we will continue. I mean, this year we are continuing with our exploration. And probably going into next year too.
Interesting. Okay, so you're trying understanding the kind of host lithologies there, chasing the higher grades. Are you in terms of any additional features? Any additional work that you're doing in terms of vectoring in either geochemical or metal ratios that you're seeing?
Yeah, we use lots of different metal ratios and copper nickel, copper cobalt ratios. Platinum, radium ratio, etc. We use that. We use a lot of, so it actually comes to question how we operate, right? So we have very good team that were part of a lot of different discoveries in Mongolia, different projects, uranium, gold, copper, and coal. And then we also have global consultants, so which we use them. And then we have, for example, consultants we use in University of Tasmania. Sometimes we get, the University of Leicester. So that's how we use it. Most of our mineralogy work gets done in Japan and also in Australia. That's how we're doing it. So based on those work, we usually try to model it. We're still in the process of modeling it, which way it is actually flow is going and where potentially the source direction is, right? So that's one of the things we are still working, and then that would be will become a part of the next year's exploration program.
Okay, so you're doing some work on your reference there on some of the the depth potential in terms of trying to understand these feeder or conduit structures. But can you talk? Just again, I'm not sure we talked about it, but in terms of getting that kind of drilling efficiency and density, can you talk about the average drill spacing used for that resource modeling that you're talking about?
Well, this depends. Some of the areas. So oval itself is the size parameter of the oval is. At this stage, we have established roughly 800 meter continuous, semi-continuous mineralization on surface and in drilling, and then width is probably ranging from 50 to 80 meters, depending on which area you're using. And then mineralization is shallow on surface and deep into the southeast direction and going to the level 220 meter level, right? And then after that, it becomes narrow, right? That's pretty much all itself, and we are following that, conduit feeder there. And then again, there's a potentially a cluster, right? So that's why we're looking at it, different magnetic anomalies like MS1, which is different. It's wider. It's what in what we intersected. It's very classic kind of magmatic mafic intrusion, potentially with sulfides, all the right rocks, periodicite, layered intrusion in MS1. That's very interesting target. So we extending our exploration really from oval. Oval itself is drilled depending on which area. Sometimes to understand the geometry of the higher grade massive sulfides, we have drilled slightly closer spaced, but some of them is wider spaced. Overall, next stage is going to be a deeper drilling, further spaced out drilling. So that's the direction is going our exploration.
And is that sort of for resource definition or deeper structural testing? I mean, what do you hope to get from that?
Two things. Sometimes we do put structural drilling to understand the structure and measure downhole electromagnetic survey, especially. But we probably will move into resource drilling somewhat in next year. This year's drilling mostly has been really exploration drilling to understand the geological extent of the mafic gabbroic intrusion around all.
And have you? So, did you say you have or have not been doing satellite target exploration? I think you talk about MS1, MS2, and Quartz Hill.
Yeah, we are going in that direction. We have started drilling on those targets already, right? Yeah. MS1, we already have 2 targets. That's why we know it's a completely blind target, and to get that, right rock mineralization is quite. The odds are, it's not yet the economic rate, but it's quite exciting for geologists because it's odds are that it's the rock that you are really expecting is quite remarkable, right? And getting those visuals. Elevated grades of the copper and potentially a little bit PGE is good indicator that we are in the right vicinity. So we need to understand the geology better, where there is a potentially the trap zones where there is an enrichment occurred. So that's the direction we're going with our exploration.
Okay, and when do you actually start to lay out or give guidance about how much drilling you'll be doing at Oval next year?
Well, we'll probably announce next year's program. Usually we announce around January.
Okay, fine. And let's talk about Mahandul in terms of what's going, again, in terms of how did you pick that up? What do we know today?
Well, Mahandul is been, neighboring asset. It's been known as a VMS, but starting from the mineralization, starting from the surface, relatively easy access from our where we are operating. It is had 1 or 2 holes in that vicinity area where they encountered massive sulfides. So we basically twinned the hole and confirmed the location of the hole and validity of the data. We have exclusive agreement to actually acquire this project within the next 6 months or within the next 4 months now. So we're doing the technical diligence, drilling, and geophysics to understand it better. But I think what we are, in essence, is because that's where our competitive advantage comes in. Is we have a lot of data on the country, a lot of data on that area from geology-wise, and we think there is a much more to this project than appears. So that's the direction we're working to establish this potential, and I think. It is because we announced recently that we encountered more than 20 meters of massive sulfide copper chalcopyrite visually showing there's a good grade, confirming with the historic results of more than 1.7% copper, I think, and then close to 1 gram per ton gold. So it is very interesting project. Still plenty to understand. There are a number of areas we think there is potential for exploration there to expand it.
Okay, so when you did that twinning, you're obviously comparing to some historic drill holes which went in. And how did they stack up in terms of thickness, sulfide texture, lithology, etc.? Is it what you're expecting?
Yeah, it is. It is what we're expecting. There are two mineralization in that hole. One is shallower gold mineralization, sitting at roughly 30 meters. 30 meters from the surface, and then a massive sulfide mineralization sitting at roughly around 130, 140 meter level, right? So that's two separate mineralization, and I think based on the visuals, I think both of them is geologically at this stage we haven't received the assay yet, so geologically stacking up very well, really well.
Okay, so it is stacking up well, and so it's what you expected. So you're saying it does kind of confirm that VMS model suggested by the kind of alteration. Yeah. Okay. Okay.
So next stages is really understand the direction of the massive sulfide, right? So is it horizontally extending, laterally extending? Is it going to be continuing to the depth? So that's the direction we need to understand. And then of course there's always structural modeling, whether there was any shifting faults, slightly changing the direction of the mineralization, etc. So that's something we're going to be really working with our geotechnical team there.
Interesting, because I think obviously the historic went down to just over 200 meters. This looks like it'll go further, but with that kind of gold credit, that gold component in there, I guess that makes it a little bit more exciting. Can you tell us when you kind of hit that gold, or what more can you tell us in terms of grade and what sort of interval are we talking about
on the gold mineralization?
Yeah.
The gold mineralization closer to surface is historically, I think they intersected 5.969 meters, so it's roughly 6 meters of close to more than 15 gram per ton. So I think that was the historical result. So looking at the rock, we understand it's related with the breccia zone, with related with the iron oxide, could be slightly enriched because of the supergene enrichment there, but still to be seen, really. We need to understand it further. We need to do more exploration. So at this stage, we really are trying to understand and assess it to complete our transaction there.
Yeah, obviously, yeah, for sure. In terms of what you've seen with the hole you put in, how much more twinning do you think you'll do, and how much of your own work?
Probably we'll do one more hole that just to understand the geological direction of the massive sulfide, right? That would be good.
Okay.
If we can hit some consistency, would be good. And that doesn't have to be twin hole, because we do understand a lot of the information we can actually check it on surface, right? On sample it, see it, and then the key for us is not the close to the surface, after the mineralization area. Key for us is really the massive sulfide mineralization, and to understand that.
Right, and so you talked about obviously understanding the region and the country and how it access information. Yeah, and how much additional information is there on, I guess, similar geochemical alteration signatures? If can you look to other VMS systems in Mongolia, or
I think as I said, there's a Rudny Altai in Kazakhstan. Okay, that's Rudny Altai means ore. So mountain range named after ore in Kazakhstan, which hosts a lot of VMS systems. And then parallel kind of range goes into southwestern part of Mongolia, right? So that's where we are looking at it. So there's potential for VMS project in that region, of course. And around the Mahandul area, there are a number of also VMS prospects and potentially some of them could be extension of the Mahandul down below. So the other companies have provided to the market some of these historic results in the past. So it is potentially shown there's a big or consistent geological event that formed this mineralization, such as Mahandul, right? So that's actually very encouraging, and that will give us a lot of direction in the future to steer our exploration.
Fantastic. And so generally, with the team you've assembled and what the business plan you've agreed, it might still be early days, and I'm sure you'll give us a bit more information on Mahandul when you work out what the drill plan is at the beginning of next year. But you must kind of set yourself some internal thresholds that you're aiming for. If I think it's called drill to kill. You got to work out what is and is not acceptable. So what does that look like for you?
Yeah. So I mean, for us, it's important that we look at the end of the day. We as you said, you're right. We're not here just to drill it. We're just here to actually define a potentially economic resource that can become a mine in the future. So that's something we look at. That's something, that perspective is what we use. Always look at different projects, really, because how accessible it is, how well infrastructure developed area, how is the resource really, easily mined or developed with potentially how financial burden of actually developing that resources, right? Because we are a relatively small company at this stage, $30 million market cap, but in that sense, what we're looking at is a higher grade component in the projects are very important for us, because that's where a lot of margins are actually in there. And then overall, what we're looking at, why we're picking up Mahandul, and then we have oval and different clusters, is these projects occur in clusters, and we are looking at it potentially down the road, establishing centralized processing plant for these projects, right? So where we can use multi-years down the road. So for us to have a threshold, the goal is really looking at it, more than 20 million tons of economic resources in ore, potentially producing 20 to 50,000 tons of metals in one or other form. That would be really a strategy for us, a strategic goal for us to reach. Yeah,
it's so interesting times. If I look at some of your Canadian counterparts, and obviously you're on the ASX, but the Canadian counterparts like Erdene and even Step Gold to a degree, they've found ways of getting funded in country, which I think, well, certainly with MMC getting involved there. Do you think that access to capital when you need it post exploration phase is going to be there once you move into sort of development stage, economic study phase?
Yeah, Matthew, I think so, because as I said, there are a number of mines got built in Mongolia over the last 15 years, right? Some of them has international financial institution funded, some of them funded domestic banks, some of them funded by Chinese institutions. So the advantage of really operating in Mongolia is you get these different types of funding mechanisms that you could use, first of all. Second of all, because, as I said, the market, the operational nature in Mongolia in mining is matured, there's a different components you can use, right? You can use contractor mining, which has a lot of capacity in Mongolia because of the coal mining development, right? So the sheer volume of potential companies that can move earth is a lot higher, and then of course, closer to the market means we can always tap into funding related with the offtakes, etc., quite easily. So that's the advantage of actually operating in Mongolia. Believe it or not, 15 years ago, Mongolia used to only export roughly 5 million tons of coal. Now, as a country, we export more than 80 million tons of coal, and that includes the brown coal. I don't think any country in the global sells or exports brown coal. So that shows that if the project is commercially viable and cost competitive against Chinese domestic producers, there's a good merit that these projects can become a mine in Mongolia.
Exciting times, sir. Exciting times. So, look, I appreciate you bringing this story on the platform. A lot to look at, and looks like the beginnings of something quite nice. So, appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you, Matthew. Appreciate it.